On August 3rd, 2026, 17 days ago, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac quietly shut down a shortcut that condo buyers all over the country had been using for years. It was called a limited review. If you put enough money down, your lender could skip a deep financial checkup of the building itself and just focus on you, the borrower. As of August 3rd, that shortcut is gone. Every condo building with more than 10 units now has to pass a full financial review before a buyer can get a normal mortgage on it. That alone would be a big story, but layer it on top of what's already happening in Washington state and it turns into something bigger. Washington already has one of the strictest reserve fund laws in the country, and Seattle is sitting on more than 1,100 old brick buildings that everyone agrees will eventually need earthquake retrofits. They just haven't passed the law requiring it yet. Put those three things together and you get older, cheaper condos in Washington quietly sliding out of reach of a normal mortgage, not because a retrofit law passed, because the financial system is already grading buildings on a test that law hasn't even been written yet. Here's what's actually going on and what it means if you own, rent, or want to buy one of these units.
Let's slow down on that August 3rd rule change first, because it's the part driving everything else right now. For years, if a condo buyer put down somewhere between 10 and 25%, depending on whether it was a primary home, a second home, or a rental, lenders could use that limited review. They could mostly skip the deep dive into the HOA's finances. As of August 3rd, that's done. Full review every time for any building over 10 units. A full review means the lender sends the building's HOA or property manager a form, Fannie Mae calls it Form 1076, asking real questions about the building's financial health. And there are specific things that can fail a building outright. If the association budgets less than 10% of its income towards reserves, that's a fail. If more than 15% of units are 60 or more days behind on dues or a special assessment, that's a fail. If the reserve study, basically the building's long-term repair plan, is older than 3 years, that's a fail. Unresolved structural issues or deferred maintenance can fail it too. Fail that review and the building gets labeled non-warrantable. In plain terms, that means Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac won't back a mortgage on any unit inside it, not just for the person buying right now, but for everyone trying to sell or refinance there afterward. According to Corey Chubner, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs at AD Mortgage, buyers stuck in that situation aren't locked out completely, but they'll pay for it. He estimates non-conventional loan rates run 1/4 to 1/2 percentage point higher than a normal conventional loan. The Mortgage Bankers Association has already warned that closing timelines are going to stretch out. The impact on any given deal depends heavily on how fast a building's management can actually produce the paperwork lenders are asking for. That's the national backdrop. Now, here's why Washington state specifically is a rougher place to be an older condo owner than most. Washington passed its own reserve study law years before this federal change, and it just got a lot bigger. Since January 1st, 2026, a state law called RCW 64.90.545 requires every common interest community in Washington, condos and HOAs alike, to keep a current reserve study. That includes buildings formed before 2018 that had previously been exempt from this kind of scrutiny. That study has to include an actual physical inspection, not just a spreadsheet, and it has to be refreshed regularly. Washington is one of only a handful of states that legally requires this at all. So when the federal full review rule showed up in August asking, does this building have a current reserve study, a lot of older Washington buildings suddenly had to answer that for the first time. And they had to answer it right as the federal bar for what counts as acceptable went up. Now bring in the earthquake piece. Seattle has identified more than 1,100 unreinforced masonry buildings, old brick structures, many of them converted into condos, concentrated in neighborhoods like Pioneer Square. The city calls these collapse hazards in a serious earthquake. The city's own risk estimate puts the odds of a damaging earthquake hitting the city sometime in the next 50 years at 86%. To be precise about which kind of quake that number covers, the U.S. Geological Survey separately estimates an 85% chance of a magnitude 6.5 or larger deep earthquake somewhere in the Puget Sound region over that same 50 years.
There's also a smaller but still real 10 to 15% chance of a full magnitude 9 Cascadia subduction zone rupture, the kind that hasn't happened since the year 1700. The city has been building toward a mandatory retrofit ordinance for these buildings since 2021, when the city council first directed planners to develop one. As of right now, in August 2026, it still isn't law. Retrofitting remains voluntary. The first building to earn official retrofitted status under the city's program was the Pole Building on Union Street back in February 2025. By December 2025, the city had recognized 76 buildings as retrofitted, roughly 7% of the total. In January 2026, the city cut permit and plan review fees for seismic retrofit projects in half to speed things along. But here's the thing worth understanding. The city itself points to research out of California showing that voluntary retrofit programs only get about 19% of eligible buildings to actually comply. Mandatory programs get dramatically more. That's part of why Seattle keeps saying a mandatory ordinance is coming. It's openly acknowledged that voluntary alone probably won't be enough. So you've got old buildings that everyone expects will eventually need expensive structural work. They're sitting inside a state that now legally requires proof of financial readiness for exactly that kind of expense, and that feeds into a federal loan review that penalizes buildings for not having that proof. None of the three pieces individually is an earthquake retrofit. Together, they function like one. Let's talk about what this actually costs people, because the numbers only matter once you know what they do to a real transaction. Start with reserves. Right now, a building needs to put at least 10% of its annual income into reserves to pass a full review. That minimum is going up to 15% starting January 4th, 2027. If a building is currently funding under that new bar, its board has two options: raise monthly HOA dues or hit owners with a special assessment, a one-time bill, sometimes for thousands of dollars per unit, to catch the reserve fund up fast. Either way, that cost lands directly on the people who already own units there, whether or not they're planning to sell anytime soon. There is one narrow way around the flat 15% rule. If a building has a reserve study less than 3 years old and is funding at that study's own recommended level, it can qualify for an exemption, which means the reserve study itself, the same document the state now legally requires, has become the single most important piece of paper in whether a Washington condo can be financed at all. Now think about what happens if a building fails. It gets flagged guide ineligible inside Fannie Mae's own database called the Condo Project Manager. Any lender checking that building before a buyer even writes an offer will see the flag. That buyer pool shrinks to people willing to use a non-conventional loan, more expensive, harder to qualify for. That in turn puts downward pressure on what the building's units are actually worth because fewer people can afford to buy in. You can already see some of this showing up in Seattle's condo market itself, even before most of these rules have had time to fully bite. As of July 2026, condo inventory across the city sat at 6.2 months of supply. Pending sales were down nearly 11% from the year before, and closed sales were down close to 13%. The average condo was taking about 40 days to sell, going for roughly 96% of its original asking price. Downtown specifically looked even softer. Redfin's numbers from mid-June showed the median condo sale price down 7.1% year over year, with homes sitting an average of 43 days on market, up from 30 days the year before. To be fair, some of that softening is just rates and general market conditions, not this specific rule change. It's genuinely hard to separate the two this early. But real estate agents working in older buildings are already telling buyers to expect exactly the kind of friction this creates: longer closings, more paperwork requests to the HOA, and in the worst cases, a building that simply can't be financed conventionally at all. It isn't only bad news, though. One rule actually loosened up in Washington's favor. Fannie Mae used to cap how many units in a building could be investor-owned at 50%, a rule that hurt Seattle's high-rise buildings, which often lean heavily toward renters. That cap was removed effective March 18, 2026. That means more of Seattle's downtown towers are now eligible for financing than they were a year ago. So this isn't a story where everything got worse across the board. It's a story where the risk got redistributed towards specifically the older, under-reserved buildings and away from newer high-rises with lots of renters.
So what are people actually doing about this right now in real time? HOA boards in older buildings are under real pressure to move fast. Under the new federal rules, the old practice of letting reserve balances drift near zero is now explicitly banned. That's something lenders used to tolerate as long as the account technically stayed above zero. Boards that were coasting on that method are being forced to either raise dues meaningfully or pass a special assessment. There's no more room to quietly underfund the account and hope nobody checks. The city of Seattle, for its part, is trying to make the eventual retrofit cheaper before it becomes mandatory. Beyond the fee cuts in January, the city has an alternate retrofit method on the books that's estimated to cut costs by up to 70% compared to a full structural overhaul. The city has also been exploring a program that would let building owners sell unused development rights to help pay for the work. King County has rolled out a financing tool called CPacer specifically so commercial and multifamily building owners can spread retrofit costs out over time instead of paying up front. On the lending side, mortgage brokers are telling buyers something pretty simple. Don't wait until you're already under contract to find out if a building qualifies. Chubner's advice, plainly, is that patience is going to matter more than it used to, because full review buildings are going to take longer to clear than the old system did. Real estate agents are increasingly checking Fannie Mae's building database before a buyer even makes an offer. They're pushing for longer closing windows, 60 or 90 days instead of the usual 30 to 45, specifically to give a full review time to finish without blowing up the deal.
So here's where things actually stand as of today, August 20th, 2026. There is no Washington state law requiring earthquake retrofits yet. Seattle's mandatory ordinance is still in the coming but not adopted category, same as it's been for a few years now. What is real and already active is the state's reserve study law, and what is brand new is the federal full review requirement that took effect just over 2 weeks ago. For owners in older buildings, that means the financial consequences most people associate with a retrofit mandate, special assessments, higher dues, harder financing, are already arriving, years ahead of any legal deadline to actually do the retrofit work. For buyers, it means the reserve study and the buildings standing in Fannie Mae's own database are now arguably more important than the unit itself. For renters, it matters too. When a building's costs go up, those costs eventually show up in rent, even if the renter never sees a mortgage application in their life. None of this is finished playing out. The 15% reserve threshold doesn't fully kick in until January 2027. Seattle still hasn't set a hard date for its mandatory retrofit ordinance. But the pattern is already visible. The market is pricing in a mandate that technically doesn't exist yet, and older, cheaper buildings are the ones absorbing that cost first. If you're looking at an older condo anywhere in Washington right now, especially anything built before the 1990s, especially anything in an unreinforced masonry building, the first document worth asking for isn't the listing photos, it's the reserve study. That's the paper that's quietly deciding whether you can even get a normal loan on the place.